What the hell? I'm recording. Okay. I'm recording.
Grumpy.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is just refreshing, bro. It's like I'm not looking at you stuttering or like I'm thinking, damn, do I have internet connection?
Well, at least for now, anyway.
Bro, those lovely servers over in China, those Zoom servers, serving us so well.
That's why all the money's going, bro. That's a stock price going through the roof.
How is Zoom stock price now? Has it gone down since the thing? Or?
Let's have a look. It probably has. But still probably way too overpriced. Then again, I mean, at least at my workplace, they're not using it anymore. They're using Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Because Zoom's like a one-trick pony, but Teams is the package.
There you go. And if you're already using all the other Office stuff, then you kind of...
You know what Microsoft do, yeah? They come to all these... Obviously, they sell to all these companies and organizations, right? All the big ones. They go to them and say, look, you buy Office from us already. We'll just throw in Teams for free.
There you go.
Or pay us like £1 a month per employee or something, yeah? Mm-hmm. And what that does is it basically just kills Slack. And then when Slack dies, then Microsoft will just have the monopoly.
Was it Slack bought out? I think it was, wasn't it?
Slack, yeah, Salesforce. So Salesforce also is in a lot of organizations. So that's where the competitive dynamics comes in.
I'm trying to minimize anything on the computer that's going to slow me down.
No, with Zoom, bro, you don't have to worry. Alhamdulillah. You don't have to worry.
I'm still worried.
What was I going to say? Yeah, bro, I want to reply to an email that we got before I forget because it's like time sensitive to Ramadan. So let's just pull that up. And then there was a kind of a Facebook post I wanted to go through. Would be interesting. Oh, look what we got. This is interesting. We just got this. Check it out, yeah? Check it out. I'll just mention his first name. Mas'ud sent us an email. He said, Salams, Muhammad and Amin. Just wanted to reach out and thank you for your mention of Alchemia on your podcast. It means a lot to us that you recognize the excellence of what we are doing, and I'm impressed with your understanding of these issues we have faced. You also raised the point about Alchemia not reaching its potential, and there is a story behind it. I am pleased to say that we are now on a very good and solid footing for growth, inshallah. If you want to have a chat, I'm happy to fill you in with the details of our journey over the last couple of years. Feel free to give me a call. Jazakallahu khairan.
Ooh.
Come on.
Maybe we'll have him on the podcast, bro. Maybe he can talk about
I think
the journey.
that's what he was subtly pointing to. But yeah, of course, man. Like, you know what? Like, people don't really contact us that much or at all, maybe, and say like, look, I've got an interesting story, or I know someone with an interesting story, but that would probably turn out to be quite a few good episodes like that. Like, you know, the best episode ever with Sharif, that was kind of that situation where someone told me about him and they're like, you should get him on. And then we did, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, anyone who's like started listening to the podcast since then, since episode 79, like after that, make sure you go back and listen to episode 79. I even memorized the episode number, bro. That's the beauty. So that was not the email I was referring to. I just noticed that now. The email I wanted to go through was... Oh yes, here we go. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I wanted to know if it's possible for Mind Heist podcast to have an episode on balancing work during Ramadan. May Allah elevate you in rank and grant you all Jannatul Firdaus. So I don't know if that's a whole episode. That's kind of just a little question. So since we've got a couple of weeks of Ramadan left, so might as well answer it now before time runs out.
Only a couple of weeks. Oh my God.
Yeah, halfway through, man.
Oh.
So you're working, like you're more normal than me. So what's the secrets?
SubhanAllah. You know, obviously my work sort of pattern has changed a lot. So it's more of a make your own work sort of thing at the moment for me. But, you know, I still attend meetings, I still do. But like I said, at the moment, everything's over Zoom and stuff. And, well, not Zoom, but, you know, the like.
Do you have to be, like, available certain hours?
Yeah, generally my work phone is always on if I need to do anything. But quite specifically to me, I'm quite torn between my actual workplace because I haven't got a laptop like a work laptop, so there's a lot of stuff that I can only do on my own computer that for some reason I can't do at work PCs, and then there's other things that I can only do on a work PC that I can't do here, and then in between I can use my phone for quite a lot of things. We've got quite a lot of like systems and stuff that are inbuilt on my phone, but because of that, quite thankfully I only live about 10 minutes away from work, the drive, so on the one hand I can drive there, on the other hand parking isn't too great, and I can't justify parking at work anymore if I don't really work there permanently. We're very tight on spaces, but balancing it.
Have you been like waking up at like 10, 11 sometime? Come on, be real, bro. Come on.
No, well, sometimes I might put my work phone on and have a bit of a nap until someone calls me. But other than that, sorry, I need to switch this off. This Apple Watch.
The Apple Watch is distracting you from the important things in your life.
I've got a couple of stories about this watch.
Okay.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, I generally what I do is as soon as I'm done, so between Asr and Maghrib is like my Quran time, guaranteed.
Asr and Maghrib, okay.
Yeah, so, but what I've realised, like yesterday I realised this, I think I had a busy day the day before. So yesterday I did a day where I was actually back in uniform and back working normal because I had a few things to do. So I was a bit knackered, and I'd came home at 4ish, did my Quran reading, but then I realised like I was just falling asleep as I was reading, and I was just knackered. And I was like, I forgot what it felt like doing this, and I probably didn't. I don't know. I think I basically matched how much I was reading before, thanks to the Handy Quranly app, which we shouted out last episode. But yeah, generally that is my time. That is my sort of time to focus on the Quran, and maybe I'm not doing as much as I should in between. So during the work day, I've seemed to just be focusing on Quran a lot, and I think maybe this Ramadan I have, although compared to last Ramadan I was more involved in maybe charity and stuff, this Ramadan I feel like I'm just more involved in Quran, and that seems to be my focus. And I do feel like there should be more that I should be doing, but I can't think straight away what more I should be doing apart from reading the Quran. Like I want to do more good deeds, and but the opportunities haven't just arisen. You want to help people out, you want to do this and that, but I think maybe partly because of lockdown, partly because I'm not really engaging with people anymore. I feel like I haven't got much other than the Quran to sort of sink my teeth into. What about you, bro?
But that is the main thing anyway, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Like, I guess you can always do just more Quran, right? Like, one thing I've been trying to do is instead of 1 juz a day, trying to do like 1.5 juz a day.
Okay.
So then you would finish the Quran in 20 days instead of 30, and then you could just start it again for the last 10 days. Even if you don't finish it in the last 10 days again, a second time, it's more, isn't it?
Yeah.
More is better. So I was thinking for this situation where you're going to work, let's say you're going to an office 9 to 5, like what would be a good setup for that? And I was thinking like, it depends obviously what country you're in terms of the timings. But I'm kind of aware of the UK timings now because it's actually similar to Turkey, I think. So if you go to bed straight after Isha, and even if it depends, some people don't have Tarawih, like we don't have Tarawih in the masjid, but you could come home from Isha. Let's say you pray Isha in the masjid, for example. You come home, then you sleep straight away, but then you wake up. Let's say you have suhoor at 4 a.m. You wake up at 3 a.m. Okay, so let's say you sleep 11 till 3. That's 4 hours, right? Some people might be able to sleep a little tiny bit more than that. Okay, you got the 4 hours sleep. Then you pray your tarawih then. So like 3 a.m. in the middle of the night, you're praying, you're making your dua and everything in sujood, and it's really good, doing it alone, doing it with your family, whatever you can do. Then you have your suhoor. And then, so you've slept 4 hours. So you need probably another 2 to 3 hours, right, for the work day. So if you have time at that time, so let's say you've had your suhoor at, 4:30, 5, then possibly you could sleep again then, even if it's 90 minutes. And that might do a lot of people. And then to then go on and have their work day, right? Go to work, do your work. You will be tired, of course, I think. I honestly don't know what's like doing this office thing in Ramadan, right? But yeah. I was just thinking this out because I did this live stream for Ramadan, for planning a Ramadan. I was trying to think, what would I do if I was in this situation? So you could sleep a little bit more after Fajr, then you go to work, but then when you come home from work, I think it'll be really good to have a nap then as well. So it's like the third time you're sleeping, but it's not that you're sleeping loads each time, you're just breaking it down. So when you come home from work, if you sleep, for example, even 20, 30 minutes, that might give you that energy to then do some ibadah before iftar. Because if you're at work all day, your time for actual ibadah is very limited, isn't it? You know, like between Maghrib and Isha, for a lot of people, that's like dead time, like not dead time, it's full time. You can't do much then. So you've got Asr to Maghrib, like you said, and then you've kind of got like in the early hours of the morning, maybe before Fajr, like that's kind of your slots for Ibadah. So what might happen is like what you were describing is Asr to Maghrib, you're tired. It's the final lap of the fast. So that's where napping might give you that boost to then make you able to, for example, read your Quran at that time. So that's what I was thinking, you know, like maybe like 3 different sleeping times, but it's kind of just trying to make it work with the whole 9 to 5 workday.
I think people beat themselves up a lot as well, and maybe compare themselves to other people and how much they should or can do. But I think for someone working in an office or working in any job, really, it's about filling those gaps. Because like we spoke about before, you could have an 8 or 9 hour work day, but you're only really doing solid work for, I don't know, 40, 50, 60% of that time. And it's about those gaps, because I bet even if you have like this screen timer thing on your phone, on an average work day, check how often you've been on your personal phone, and you'll see that's probably an hour or 2. And actually that's, you know, that's not consecutively like all in one go, that's sporadically throughout the day.
So you can just pull out Quranly, get a few ayat done.
This is it. It's about filling those gaps in. And I know I certainly have been trying to do that if I'm at work. And I'll consciously plan it. Like, I know I went in yesterday and I said to myself, or it was the day before, I can't remember which day, and I said, okay, I've got a meeting, you know, for this long, and then before my next meeting I've got about 30 minutes, and in those 30 minutes I went to pray dhuhr, but then I had another, you know 20 minutes or whatever. I thought, okay, I'll try and read another just or whatever I can in those 20 minutes, and then I'll go to my next meeting, because other than that I'm not gonna sit and have lunch. I'm not really in the mood to talk to anybody. And what else am I going to do? I'm probably just going to go scrolling on Reddit or something. So yeah, that was the opportunity, I suppose. And you've got to, you know, generally speaking, you kind of know how the layout of your day is going to go. I'm not really one to meticulously plan every single second before the whole day starts, but as and when, just say, okay, there's an opportunity coming up. That'll be a good time. Or, you know, I'm commuting, instead of maybe driving to work, maybe try and get a bus, and then in that bus time you're, you know, reading. And if you are driving, then just put some Quran on, I suppose, and just something beneficial, a lecture or something. Just fill those gaps in with something of benefit.
Yeah, I was thinking even, you know, like lunch hour, like that's a really good time, because you're not having lunch anymore. So you might pray dhuhr and read Quran then. And 1 hour, like even for slower people, that's 1 juz. So that's a lot, you know. So that could be good. Even I remember when I was working like 9 to 5 in an office, I would, not in Ramadan, but in a normal day, I would often go to the car park, go to my car, take a nap. Because it's so difficult, man, like keeping the energy levels up after lunch. I started doing like 15, 20 minute naps. Then I go have lunch, and then I go back to work, you know. So whatever you can do in the lunch break, if there's an hour gap there, but then there might be other gaps. There might even be, you know, when you're sitting in these meetings and people are just talking and stroking their ego, you could just sit there doing dhikr, man.
Depends how many people are in the meeting. So like I went to a meeting this morning where it was 4 or 5 people, and subhanallah. So they went round doing introductions. I didn't know any of these people, bar one person. They went around doing introductions, and for some reason they just glossed me over. Like they didn't give me an opportunity. So I was like, am I even... Because the person who's like my supervisor was ill, so they couldn't attend. But I was like, well, I'm here at least. You know, I'm still part of that department. But then like they glossed over me. I don't know if it was intentional or not. And then started the agenda, and then they was talking forever. And then like halfway through, it was meant to be for an hour. And wallahi al-azim, halfway through, I just left. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And then somebody messaged me like 10 minutes to the end. And they're like, oh, are you still in the meeting? I was like, no. And then he goes to me, oh, I haven't actually had a word yet either. Like I wasn't able to speak either. So I was like, yeah, like it was pointless. I don't know what I was doing there. It was beneficial. Like it would have been beneficial if I was engaged, but clearly I was just completely ignored. But yeah, but then there was other meeting I had where it was like there was literally 95 to 100 people in the meeting. Like it was a ridiculous sort of webinar sort of thing. Bro, I wasn't paying attention at all that time. It was like 2 hours long. Maybe my segment was near the beginning. I gave my segment, I answered questions, and then I just listened in sporadically to everybody else. And that was, I was doing other things while that was going on as well. But that's the nature of it, isn't it? I'm sure everybody's doing the same. So, yeah, this time of the year, inshallah, just don't beat yourself up. Do something, and I'd like to say do more that's extra. But obviously that the main goal is to maintain whatever you do. Me reading the Quran now in this fashion has been different because I am trying to resist a bit to read the translation. So I'm just reading as much as I can without. But then sometimes you just can't help it. Sometimes I'm not saying don't read the translation if you want to, but sometimes you read something in Arabic, and obviously I vaguely know, I know a lot of Arabic, but sometimes I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. What does it actually properly mean? And I'll read the translation just briefly. And I'm like, oh, and I'll get really fascinated. And I'll share something with my wife or share something, and then I'm benefiting other people by doing that. So, yeah, I feel like exploring the Quran this way, because I don't think I've ever successfully completed the Quran in Ramadan. And I can't say how far I've got from start to finish. I often, when I do read, I just do a random sort of surah. I'll flick open the book, flick it, which surah am I going to land on, and I'll start there. But yeah, going from sort of start to finish has been really interesting, and we're often like, I don't know, in the Quran, for example, we're often told like, I don't know, like surah about Maryam alayhi salam, but then that is generally the context that we're shown it in that particular surah, not realizing that there's other surah that actually complement it, that mention the story.
Yes.
And that happens with a lot of the prophets. So it's nice to see the different angles, so to speak, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about it. But also just pondering a general reflection on the Quran, and general like deep reflection that this is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is something that really takes practice. Because you really need to engross yourself, I've found, and really you've got to shed away all of these preconceived notions that you're reading just a book, quote unquote. This is way beyond just a book. This is way beyond you reading anything else. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your creator, the creator of the heavens and the earth, communicating directly to you. And that's something you have to train yourself to understand that. And then once you do, there's a certain sweetness that then comes out. But it's just really deep sort of reflection and pondering, and I think that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourages it in the Quran to reflect and ponder, because we read things all the time, bro, whether that's books or whether that's in general. We're reading messages on our phone, we're reading articles, reading God knows what. So it's one of those ones where we have to associate the reading with something much higher caliber, the highest of things.
Yeah, and you almost have to shed the baggage we have of the short attention span. And I find that happens to me in Ramadan, where the first few days is very difficult to read a lot, and then when I push through that, then it becomes easier. But that's because I'm not used to reading that much in one go, especially. So, but by day 5 or so, you get into the rhythm. So no matter what, even if you're reading 3 pages a day or whatever, you're probably gonna have to. You have to push through the first few days, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's obviously the benefit if you can read Arabic to a certain standard, then it becomes quite rhythmic, that you can just keep going, and you're like one more verse, and then and I think especially going back to the Quran app, just to list the benefit, it's just. When you open the Quran, either an app or the actual Quran, the Mus'haf, it can be sometimes quite daunting. You turn a page and then it's like, oh, I've still got 2 more pages, and I don't know. Sometimes it's like, I don't want to say it's put off, but it's like I said, quite daunting. It can be quite daunting to finish. But with the Quran app, at least, it's showing you verse by verse, right?
Yes.
So you're just going as you go along, and I think that I'm just finding that really easy and really beneficial, and I can just keep going.
I can see how that would work, definitely.
Yeah, because you're not being struck by this. You know,
And if you think about it,
you have to read.
the page of the Quran, it's not like a book where you have paragraphs and it's broken up. It's literally ayah after ayah after ayah. It's very solid, what you would call like a solid block of text.
Yeah.
And then Quran leads the absolute opposite. I mean, I've even seen things where you take an article and you put it into this software, and it will play the article to you word by word. Right. So only one word at a time comes on screen, and it does that really fast, and it increases your reading speed, kind of thing. Oh, wow. So probably doing one word at a time, maybe it's too much, but they've done it. It's interesting, bro. Like, I wonder why that's not been done before. I guess you'd end up with, if it was a book, it'd be so thick if it was like one ayah per page or whatever.
Yeah.
But in an app, it makes a lot of sense. That's interesting, bro.
I'm quite impressed with how they were able to nail a lot from the get go, because I feel like the one thing that it wants to do, it's achieved quite well. And then I'm like, oh, subhanAllah, what in a year from now, what else could they've added to it?
Yes.
What other things? Obviously, there's optimization and there's bug fixes and stuff like that. But I'm trying to think of like more benefits and more features that people would like. But I honestly think it's at this stage it's underrated, and I think really it should be in everybody's pocket because of just that benefit. But
Quranly ambassador.
Bro, I was contacted by I'm not going to say, I don't know what he would like to go by, but the Quranly team, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we did a little collaboration on my Instagram and did a little poster thing. I might do some more if I have the time. But yeah, I was really glad with how that came out. It was about, I don't know if you've seen it. Let me kind of describe it as I've got it up. It was about trying to emphasize how like the Quran is sealed away most of the time, and we don't really want to touch it. But the same way, trying to sort of display that in digital form. So I've got the phone with the app saying, oh, you haven't read Quran in this many days, sealed in like a grip seal bag, almost like an evidence bag, but saying, good deeds do not touch or do not open, kind of like a reverse psychology sort of thing. But it's
poetic,
good,
bro.
It's good, bro. I like it a lot.
Okay, I need to look at that. That's on your Instagram, yeah?
Yeah. It's a couple of posts ago. Okay. But no, I really enjoyed working on that, and I just think I generally love to work on things that I think are really good. Good sort of. I'm trying to think. What do you think? What do you think they could add, bro?
Well, I thought when you were talking about the whole running thing you've got with the Apple Watch and the app and all that, is competition between people. And
oh, right, yeah.
I guess you get into the territory of showing off and riyah and stuff then, but if they implement it correctly, that could be interesting. It could be, for example, integrating some sort of coaching element where it's not like you've got a Quran teacher, it's just that somebody's checking up that you read at least one ayah.
Yeah. I thought a way to mitigate that, possibly, it's a bit of a wild thought, but so you could add friends, but you had to have a minimum of 3 friends before it showed you anything. But then it wouldn't show you who's doing what. It would just show you a friend of yours has read this much, a friend of yours has read this
anonymously.
much. Anonymously, but you can't have just one friend. You'd have to have more
yes.
than, and at least that way, you don't know who's reading more out of everybody, but there's definitely someone reading more than you. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So you know how much you're reading, but you wouldn't know exactly which one's reading more.
And
I think that'd be a really good way to do it.
He tweet head of product.
Oh, bro, here we go.
Head of product.
I'm gonna co-sign that one with you, and then we'll send it over to the Quranly team, bro.
Mashallah.
Look, I got all sorts of stuff here, bro. Look, I got a freshly grounded game just sitting here. I don't know what this is.
Let's do a quick one. Let's do one each.
All right, sweet. I haven't got the Ramadan edition though.
Ramadamadu.
Ramadizi edition. Right. Oh, this will do. What's a win you could really do with right now, and why?
A win. I could do with getting this book done, man.
Oh, mashallah.
That's what I could do with. Bro. Okay, your turn.
Bro, a win. Bro, just give me them stonks, bro. That's what I'm saying. Show me the greens.
What kind of stonks?
No, alhamdulillah, things are going well. I need to buy new furniture, I think.
So little gift.
Thing. Bro, this goes back to what I was saying, though. Your camera's gone all fuzzy. I don't know what's happening.
It's like focus. Still not right, is it?
Still not right, is it?
Well, I turned autofocus off, so I don't know. Anyway.
You're just going to have to get really up close and personal with the listeners.
No, I'm going to fix it now. Go on.
Bro, I was going to say about how charity doesn't decrease wealth.
Okay.
Right? In action. But I can't obviously say specifics. But let's just say, I gave a amount of charity the other day that was probably a bit bigger than I generally do. And I was like, oh, I think I was like, oh, what have I done? And then looked like a part of me was like, oh, what have I done? And then I was like, no, do you know what? No, I have to stick by this. This is, because I said I was going to try and do a bit of an experiment, didn't I?
Yeah.
And I said, let's see what happens. And wallahi al-azim, bro, it was like the next day, bro. The next day I had an email.
Bull run.
Someone was like, wanted me to do some work for them. And on top of that, they didn't specify if it was paid, and I didn't really either. I didn't really say. I just kind of went along with it. And then after I sent them the work, they were like, oh wow, that's so cool, that's amazing, what is your PayPal? So I sent them my PayPal. And bro, it was the exact same amount. To the penny, exact same amount that I obviously donated before. And I was like, there we go, bro. Imagine 6 G's. No, but that fascinated me. That fascinated me.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what I did. The bit of West I came in, but I tried to rectify my intention, and I said, oh no, I need to stick by this.
You know what? Let's do a mind heist challenge. Okay.
Oh,
there's still 2 weeks left of Ramadan, so I want listeners. Obviously, you can also do it in the Curious Cat, so it can be anonymous. Just like tell us how you've pushed yourself charity-wise.
Yeah.
It could be otherwise, but let's do charity because that is difficult, isn't it? So tell us how you've pushed yourself charity-wise. Tell us like how much you gave or like what percentage of your whatever you gave. Tell us, Yanni. That'd be interesting. Mind Heist Challenge. Hashtag Mind Heist Challenge.
I like that. Oh, can't wait for that to go viral.
It would be
I wanted to tell you about that little Apple Watch story. So some people who follow me on Instagram might have seen it, but brother Musa Adnan.
Yes.
He was doing a live sort of TV charity appeal thing, and he was talking and he was passionate. He was getting in on it. And I was sitting there watching it on TV, and then I noticed while he's sort of swinging his hands around, he's got an Apple Watch on. So he started speaking, and then I thought, you know what, I'll walkie-talkie him, because this walkie-talkie feature is pretty much always on unless you turn it off.
Right.
And there's not really any warning before to accept it.
Okay.
He must have said something about, everybody needs a piece of this pie, sort of like thing. So the radio did. I said, I want a piece of that pie. And then there was a bit of a delay, but it came through on his mic. I could hear someone off screen shouting at him, and then he completely just fumbled and lost his trail of thought. But he got me back, subhanAllah. He got me back a day or two later. Usually, so if I'm asleep for, before Fajr, if I've already had suhoor, then I might not wake up on Fajr at the dot. I might wake up 30 minutes later or whatever. So I was still asleep at this point. Bro, just in the middle of the night. I just hear him blasting through my wrist saying, you gotta wake up for Fajr, bro. Oh god, it was so scary. It was good, but it was scary, man. I didn't expect that. Just some random male voice in my bedroom.
Is this part of the app, or is it just Apple Watch?
It's a part of the Apple Watch. It's got like a walkie-talkie feature.
So all Apple Watches will have that.
They should.
iMessage maybe, right?
No, it's got its own thing that only comes up. It's only on the Apple Watch. It doesn't come up on my phone. Okay. But like I said, it's one of those ones that's kind of always on if you've turned it on once before. But now I'm conscious because it's not the first time this has happened. I was praying once and he came through asking me how I am. I was like, that's not good. But so that was just a little anecdote. So be careful if you got one. SubhanAllah. But if you saw it, you'll get one soon, inshallah.
Need an iPhone first.
bro, when we get that Mind Heist money, bro, we're doing live shows across the world. I can't wait for that. Episode 600.
Inshallah.
That's how long it will take.
Inshallah. Bro, you know, on the topic of money, sorry, not money, charity. Oh, I closed it. I had this post open, okay? I'm going to find it again, inshallah. But basically, it was around, you know, I just wanted to talk in general, actually, about charities. And, you know, we were approached by a charity, right, to kind of promote them during Ramadan. And it was like a paid thing. And that just, you know, we were kind of discussing, like, should we do it or not and stuff. And it just gets you thinking. I don't know about you, but it gets me thinking, like, if it feels a bit weird, right? A bit messed up. It's like, so you're going to pay us to talk about your charity so that people pay you, right? And obviously, hopefully they're going to pay you more than you've paid us. But then the whole question comes into the thing of like, what percentage of your donation goes to the cause and what percentage goes to admin or what percentage goes to marketing, right? So, you know, I actually, when I went to Hajj, I was in the group with one brother. He works at, I think it's Islamic Relief, one of the big ones anyway. And he was like saying, like, he was going like ranting about how this whole 100% donation policy, it's a load of rubbish. No one can deliver proper aid without like admin costs and this and that. Yeah. And yeah, honestly, I agree with him and it makes sense. For me, it's just like, how much is a good amount, right? Because you find, I think some charities, they'll spend 50% of your money elsewhere. Like 50%. You give £100, £50 goes to the cause, £50 goes to, you know, admin, like employee salaries and office rent and then marketing and stuff like that. So like, what is a good amount? Yeah, what is a good amount? We looked up this charity that, you know, was proposing to work with us, and I think they spent 16%, was it? I think it was 16% I think it was marketing and admin. So that means 74% of your donations like go to the actual cause, which I was actually surprised, like positively surprised. I thought that was quite, for a big charity, I thought that's quite a good chunk. But then it got me thinking, you know, a smaller charity, they probably have a smaller percentage that actually goes to the thing because they don't have that economies of scale, if you like. So what do you think, bro? Like, is 16% good? What were you thinking? Obviously, we don't know the standards.
I don't know if people worry about their rewards. Like, I feel like there shouldn't be a distinction. Just because somebody's particular pound coin goes to the staff as opposed to the people in need doesn't mean that you're missing out on any reward, because it's all for the same purpose. And essentially, I think I think when you know, I'm skeptical that when you donate to a particular fund within that charity, so like, oh, this appeal or that appeal, Allah knows best. If I donate to the winter appeal, does that mean that how do they differentiate between that and this specifically? It might be that, you know, especially when you donate to the most needy, well, then they're going to make that decision, aren't they? Who is the most needy and stuff. But also, it has to be within reason, I guess. But at the same time, the aid would not reach unless the people and the staff and everything behind it was funded. Yeah. So you funding those people is equally, you should be rewarded for the work that they do as well. Yeah. In fact, one could argue that if you were to donate to just, a Syria winter appeal, then maybe, Allah knows best, maybe your reward is very much limited to just that thing because that was your intention. But if you donate to if your donation reaches the staff, then maybe you're funding every single thing that staff member does. And you're getting a reward for everything they do because you funded that. So actually your reward is broader. So it's about perspective change, really. Yeah. It would be nice, though, that, you know, number one, that's on the forefront, but number two, that there's an option to fund staff, right, for that reason. Because I think instead of being a bit discreet about it, we should be putting it on the front page. Like, this appeal, that appeal, staff funding appeal. This is why
pay the CEO's salary.
but maybe not that upfront.
But you see, like where it goes, though, isn't it?
Yes, but it's about having a page.
Yeah.
It's about having a page explaining that, because people need to know.
I think
That's
people
the
are
reality.
not. They're not. What's the word? Sympathetic or empathetic enough when it comes to this. Like they don't want to hear the details of, well, we need a CEO because he's going to do all the work and this and that, and so of course we have to pay. They might understand that on a logical level, but there's no way they're going to say, yeah, cool, like this £100 I'm giving, this hard-earned money I'm giving, yeah, spend that on your office rent. Like no one's going to be comfortable with that. Although logically we're agreeing now that it's like that is what enables the thing. For me, bro, it's not about, like, I accept that the money is going to be reinvested, you could say, in all those areas, like those fixed costs, right? I accept that. I'm just thinking, what is a good level where that's acceptable, and then where is it getting too much? Because we do hear the stories of so-and-so from this charity flying business class to this part of the world and this and this. Yeah. And that is where I'm like, no, I don't want my money going that. You guys will be fine flying economy class. You're working in a charity after all. So, I'm making sacrifice with my money. You make sacrifice with your quality of life or comfort. And we're both sacrificing for the sake of Allah, and that's the business you got into. Like, you didn't get into a business class kind of business. Like, you got into the charity sector. So you make sacrifices. We all make sacrifices for the sake of Allah to help people. I don't want to pay for someone's business class flight. You know what I mean? I will pay for people's, salaries, like reasonable salaries, to do their job, to be able to focus full time on helping people. Yes, that's acceptable. But some things are really over the top, I'll give you another example.
Go on.
When these charities go on TV, let's say they go on Islam channel, Iman channel, these channels, right? They will pay the channel to go on that slot, right? So they'll say, okay, the 27th night of Ramadan, I want to book that slot on your TV channel. I'm going to come. I'm going to talk all about the work we do at our charity, and people are going to be able to phone in and make donations and all of that. The channel will say, okay, 27th night, that's like obviously a really high value night, okay, because you can make a lot of donations in that night. So that's £20,000. Okay, for example, I'm pretty sure it'd be more than that depending on the size of the channel, right? So that's, you're going to pay us, £50,000, you're going to raise £250,000, everyone's kind of happy. Like, is that acceptable that out of that £250,000, 20% of it is going to the channel?
I'd say probably is because the channel isn't itself 100% a charity. The channel obviously has to run, and it has to fund people and has to pay people, etc. I think as long as and then for the charity itself, they've got a certain element of confidence that they can exceed how much they've put in. So it's it's an investment. It's like, instead of me donating 20 grand, I will invest this 20 grand, so then I can donate 100 grand. So that we can have 100 grand afterwards, and then the issue obviously arises if you don't reach the amount. You invest to 20,000 and you didn't get even 20,000 back, which is problematic. But at the same time,
I think they generally do.
I'm sure they will, and I'm just like, well, do they? That marketing budget has always got to be a beneficial one where they can exceed it in quote unquote profits. But for the charity, especially for this channel, if they're always going to have people competing for that slot, aren't they? And they're a business at the end of the day. Muslim TV channels are a business. They're not a charity. A lot of them, at least. I know some of them maybe are, actually. Some of them maybe aren't funded, but
even then, you could say, like, they're making, like, a lot of them, the way that they actually exist and they fund their operations is purely through this Ramadan stuff, So by them taking that 20,000, whatever it is, they're actually being enabled to make the kind of content and material that they put out there. So you could say again, like, well, that's good. It's like it's a virtuous cycle. Also, to emulate a sort of economic system that they talk about, this kind of like that trickle down economics, because the pockets of those people that it ends up in also will give charity as well. I'd like to think.
You
Yes.
know, whether that's their zakat, that's obligatory on them, or whether that's just day-to-day charity. So
Yeah.
all these people that it ends up in their pockets, well, actually, they give in as well, you know, and there's nothing to say that just because it's ended up in particular people's pockets, like that 20 grand, it's either gone and reinvested into the channel to make the channel better and wider reaching, or it's gone into to pay actual employees and to pay people who, once again, probably donate charity as well. So it's about having that husn al-dhan element. Of course, I'm sure mistakes are made and not everything is 100%. But once again, nothing we do is 100%.
Yeah,
no one can put a hand on their heart and say we're all doing 100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are quite malicious things that may pop out.
Yeah.
You know, those things need to be addressed as and when.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you'd like to think that everybody's trying their best, you know?
Yeah. I think, you know, to make it a more positive thing, this discussion, like what would be good and what might fix like all of this or most of this or a lot of this is having like I don't know if it a watchdog, not a watchdog, some sort of certification, right? So, you know, like in order to be certified organic, you need to hit certain criteria. So what if there is a certification for charities where it's like Ihsan certified, meaning that they are committed to spending only X amount on additional things, you know, like we commit to only spending 10% of our total donations on marketing and only 10%, whatever the standard is, right? People in the charity sector will know better than me. And then it's like, because that's XYZ certified, now it's like, okay, I'm going to give you now because I know you're legit. Whereas I feel like now there's a lot of distrust with charities with some of the stories that have come out, right? But if you had this kind of certification like that, then that would put a lot of people's like hearts at rest, and that would be quite cool, wouldn't it?
But once again, it can also open up doors for other issues. You know, I was watching, what was I watching yesterday? It was like a Vice documentary about the UN and like UN peacekeepers. I don't know if you came across that. And it was just about like the rape and sexual assault that loads of they were involved in around the world. And it's like, well, these are meant to be the peacekeepers, like what's going on there? But obviously the documentary details how this kind of can transpire. And it also reminds me of other regulatory bodies, like I watched a documentary called Seaspiracy recently, and it's basically around the fishing industry, the oceans, stuff like that, and how like there's all these regulations on like tuna and all this seafood that we buy, and like you get a tuna pack and it's got a little label saying, oh, this is, you know, F whatever approved, and then they were talking about those people that approve it, and they were like, well, did you know that a lot of these people,
businesses as well,
not just that, sometimes they're businesses, but sometimes the people that genuinely do care are bribed, they are threatened, some of them have been murdered, you know, because of circumstances. Like you could be out, like an independent observer could be out on sea in the middle of the Indian Ocean trying to legitimately observe what they're doing, but then they disappear. And you know, especially around the world, you can't guarantee. This is a worldwide issue, isn't it? And it's quite lawless in certain parts of the world, so they can get away with that kind of stuff. I know that's an extreme example, but it just shows that there can be difficulty in regulating. Like, for example, if there was a regulatory body, who would fund it? Would it need funding? Would it just be volunteers that do it? If there are volunteers, how committed are they going to be, and how often are they going to go there?
You do get off that. It's like, you know, you have was it HMC, like halal certified. Like that's a business in the end. They charge butchers or whatever to be certified. So you pay to play.
And you know,
there is the Charities Commission. Charities Commission obviously overlooks things, but the Charities Commission is a certain base standard. And I think what we're looking for is just what's the ihsan level of that. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But this post, I won't read it all, it's kind of long, but at the end I'll say like who wrote it and people can read into it because it's kind of interesting, especially considering, you know, we're coming up to the last 10 days and stuff. So what he said is, he's talking about like how some of the charities, they're dodgy and they're corrupt or they have un-Islamic practices. And he said, we have a major share of the blame in this as well. And we should always start with ourselves first when it comes to holding people accountable. And here's the mistakes that we make. So he said, we think that donating to charity, whether in the form of sadaqah or zakah, is just a secular act of giving, divorced of any legal requirements. We believe erroneously that the only thing that matters is our good intention. This is a massive mistake because charity is an act of worship first and foremost. Even the most flexible form, sadaqah, should not be given to absolutely every and any single cause. For example, CVE. Is that countering violent extremism, right? Or other politically problematic programs. As for zakah, then it is hugely restricted in how it must be given, where it must be given, and to whom it must be given, right? So it's saying, if you're not careful about, for example, you go on a website and it's like, yeah, we're helping orphans in Syria, and it's like, yeah, 100% zakah eligible. If you don't even know what zakah eligible means, they've decided for themselves that zakah eligible. They want to say that they are. Are they though, right? You have to have a certain knowledge yourself and check it out for yourself, right? And I've seen this countless times, not so much with zakah, but when it comes to certain causes that you find, whatever, on LaunchGood and stuff, it's like if you look deep into the cause that they're promoting, the people behind it, you'll find that they have certain kind of agendas that are, we might not agree with, so you got to be careful with that. But then he said something interesting, which I was surprised with, bro, which is he's saying basically that, this is a big one. We Muslims think we're very generous amongst the nations of the world, but I think we need to investigate this a bit more, because you think that the fact that we give billions of dollars a year in zakah is just us being generous. Then you didn't even understand zakah in the first place. Zakah isn't even yours in the first place. That 2.5% of your wealth is the right of those 8 recipients of zakah. So you're literally just safekeeping their money, and then you want to be called generous. Okay, so that's what I said. And then he goes on to say, and this is like the last bit, that basically most of the charity that's given in Ramadan is zakah money, not sadaqah. And he's saying that people are going around, when they're going to give money, they're saying, is this zakah eligible? Because let's say my zakah is £200, and it's like, I'm only giving £200 this Ramadan, so I need to make sure you're zakah eligible, because I'm only going to give away this 200, you know what I mean? And so it becomes, that's where the charities start playing this game of, okay, can we squeeze into the category of being zakah eligible, and he said that's where the games come in. Whereas if we were more generous, okay, the zakah is given, and then the zakah is given in a very strict manner, right? Only to those who should get it according to the categories. But then with sadaqah, we're more loose. If we were like that, then the charities wouldn't feel the need, or they wouldn't be that incentivized to call anything and everything zakah eligible,
I suppose I can see how that's an adequate issue to raise. I think I don't come from a background or an understanding where I think a lot about my zakat. I generally just think about general sadaqah a lot, and because zakat is once a year, I don't have this association that it has to be in Ramadan, etc. Or I think about it once. I give my zakah once a year, and I find somewhere that, I suppose during that small short period I'm looking for a zakat applicable place, then fair enough, I am, I fall into that category. But I suppose it didn't cross my mind that actually, that's going to be the bulk of where people get their money from. But to be honest, Allah knows best. Maybe more people are wealthier than I am. But zakat, how much I should be giving for zakat is a lot smaller than what I'd like to give anyway in charity. Yeah. So that's why it's kind of a lot less on my priority list. I suppose if you're making a lot of money, then your zakat, you'd have a lot of zakat to give. But at the same time, surely then all of your standards should raise, because if zakat is only 2.5%, then really it shouldn't be obviously it's a mandatory that we need to give it. Of course, it doesn't belong to us. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm surprised if charities are coming from this hungry angle of we need the zakat. That's the most important thing we get. Because I don't think of Ramadan as, it's zakat season. I think of Ramadan as, it's good deed season. Everything goes. I should be giving more charity in general, not just my zakat. So I don't know. Maybe he or she, maybe the angle they're coming from is focused on zakat more. But I'd argue, at least from my own perspective, people are just giving general sadaqah. So they're not being that stringent on what they what's applicable or not.
Yeah,
and
I was surprised by that as well. Like,
yeah,
I thought the same as you. Like, zakah is a small portion of what people are giving in total in Ramadan.
Yeah, I'd be surprised to consider that charities in general are hungry for the zakat side of things, when zakat is, generally speaking, like I said, it's going to be such a low number compared to how much you'd think people would be giving anyway, apart from zakat, you know.
I do get why they go after it. I never actually guessed that people are limiting their giving mostly to just their zakah, but maybe they are. I mean, by the way, the person that wrote this post is Abu Isa Ni'matullah.
Okay.
And so because I just assume he's got way more experience in the field than me, I assume he's right on this. But I was confused about that because, like I said, I was thinking like, okay, if you're giving away £100 in Ramadan, then maybe 20 of that would be the zakah part, and the rest is like you just want to give, you know.
Yeah.
But maybe there are different people. I guess so many different types of Muslims, and some they literally just want to give the absolute minimum, and that's why these charities might say zakah, 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 because if people are saying, look, I'm giving this away anyway, right? Like it's gone. You don't have to convince me to give more because I already know I'm going to give this. So then that's like low-hanging fruit, maybe you could say, from their perspective. But he's got a lot of posts about this, actually. I think he's like writing multiple. I saw another one which is like really long. Like this one's quite long, but very long. And I think like I'm going to probably read that one and just kind of understand a bit more. And he's also recommending a few charities as well that he said like he's vetted and he's like very comfortable with.
But then it's important, like if you're recommending stuff, then you might as well come up with the ones that you're not recommending, because what's the point then? You know, because it doesn't solve anything for the people. You know, if he's seen this happening, and he hasn't made people aware, then everyone's just going to be like really, what's the word? Cautious and not want to give to anybody, because if they're adhering to this, because I'm sure the comments of whatever post it is, I haven't seen it, but I'm sure the comments are like, oh Sheikh, what charities are they, or what charities should we not that's people, that's what people care about. The average Joe, all they care about is, okay, what shall I do?
I mean, I think he called out a charity or two in the past, but I would say that it's actually all of our responsibility to know, for example, that there are 8 categories of people that zakah should go to. Just have a general sense that there are 8 categories. What are the categories? And then when you go to, like personally, bro, the way I give zakah is I will obviously have the general fiqh knowledge of zakah and the categories, and I will only give my zakah. I'm very careful with zakah, and I think that's basically what he's encouraging us to do, and that's what I think. I don't know about blacklisting charities, but I just think everyone should take responsibility and not just say, oh, it says zakah eligible, so
I think this might be off. I've just had a bit of a thought. I think I remember seeing recently, I can't remember what the organisation was, but they did, it was like a week ago I saw it, where they put out something about being eligible for zakat, like they were asking for donations for their zakat, and there was a big hoo-ha about it, because even for me, like at first glance, I was like, I don't think this is, this doesn't come across as a zakat eligible thing. And then people were sharing the link to where they tried to justify it, or justified it, Allah knows best. And I was like reading it, and I was like, well, maybe from that angle, but I wouldn't do it. So maybe it's a response to that. I have a vague recollection of what the organisation was, but I can't be 100% sure, so I'm not going to say. But all I remember was like their area or arena of work, or at least what they were raising for, didn't come across as one of the things that you would automatically think, okay, that's where my zakat would go. So it might be in response to that, and maybe that's why there's a bit of vagueness as to who it's for, because it's generally known who it's for. When you kind of indirect someone. I think that's what it is, because it was literally a week ago I saw it. It was a bit of a hoo-ha online about it, but as it quickly popped up, it quickly disappeared from my mind.
What a lot of these people do is they will take the category of the 8 people that should get zakah, and one of them is fi sabilillah.
That's what it was, yeah.
Right, and that's like for jihad, right, I believe. They will say that, some scholars, they say fi sabilillah, it's not just jihad, it's calling people to Allah.
Right.
And so then I remember one charity a year or two ago, they said that we're going to do these kind of interfaith things and meetups or something, and with this, this whole like liberal agenda behind it.
Right.
And we're going to say that's fi sabilillah, and we're going to use zakah money on that.
Yeah.
And,
I think it was similar. I remember the justification was a fi sabilillah thing, and I was just like, oh. If it's, look, with anything, bro, you err on the side of caution,
With zakah especially, man.
Yeah, and I remember how, I remember seeing a video or something about Abu Bakr and the Spot Project. He was talking about zakat, because obviously now that he's in this field, he was talking about how much of a, in a good way, a burden it felt on him to get it right. It felt like a mountain on, weighing down on him to get the zakat of people right, to the right people, because it's an amana, a really important one. Not saying that sadaqah in general shouldn't have that importance to it, but zakat is a lot more stricter, right? So yeah, that's the kind of concern and passion you need across the board for the whole organisation. And when it comes to something like that, you do it on the side of caution. I don't, if I was the head of that company or charity, I wouldn't even bother entertaining it, because it just opens up potholes that people could sink into. Like, you don't want to make a big mistake. No, let's err on the side of caution. Let's use some other money for that. Let's not use it as zakat money. I mean, if the zakat has got such strict rules to it, then let's give the zakat to the people that it's very obvious who need it, as opposed to trying to twist it in this particular way. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides, and I think maybe that's what happens, akhi. Like, my fear, because I did have thoughts of maybe one day working for a charity, or I've applied even before historically to charities, and then I remember I got an interview for a particular charity, but I never went and never attended, because I don't know, I can't remember why I didn't. But yeah, I remember thinking, if I start workifying this spiritual side, am I going to lose touch with the importance of it? Am I just going to treat it as a job, as work? So I was quite concerned from that angle, and maybe that's what happens on the ground. I've never worked for a Muslim or a spiritual sort of, like, I haven't really necessarily been paid. I can't think off the top of my head for anything dini. But that goes back to what we were saying earlier. The charity that approached us, automatically I had a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, because I was like, they don't really need to pay us to do this, if it was like a big thing that was going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time out of our lives, fair enough. But just to kind of mention or promote or something, I felt like, I shouldn't be getting paid for this. But then again, I've seen that same charity that obviously contacted us. I'm pretty certain they've contacted a lot of other people I know, and all of a sudden, a lot of those other people are now doing, what's the word? Endorsements or whatever, appeals with them. So I'm like, I'm not going to say whether they've been paid or not. Allah knows best. But at the same time, I can tell that, that is a possibility, and it just puts a bad taste in my mouth, and I'm sure it does for a lot of people. But at the same time, you need to strike a balance. Because I remember, like, before, Muslim speakers and stuff would be charging a particular amount, and people got in a bit of a hoo-ha about how much they were charging and stuff. But then where do you draw the line? Because, some people want to be paid to teach you Quran or teach your kids Quran. Even in a local masjid here, with all due respect, the people that teach Quran here get paid so little, comparatively speaking, right? But then there's people that are like, well, they shouldn't be paid at all. It should be a volunteer thing. Well, then, bismillah, go and volunteer then, if you're all about volunteering. Some people can't volunteer, There has to be incentives, and you have to put your money where your mouth is. So it's a difficult one to be in. But yeah, charity in general is going to be one of those ones. Because you're dealing with money, then money becomes an issue. It's like, well, this money that you're going to pay me is probably better off being spent somewhere else.
Yeah. I think if we were going to promote a charity, even if it's easy to say when we don't rely on the podcast to make a living, right? But
yeah,
true. Like, doing it as a hobby, like, if we believed in the charity and we wanted to do it, we would just, like, mention them for free, innit? Like,
And like I said, once again, if we were doing this for a living, and
that would be different, I think. Yeah.
Not just that. No, I wouldn't say it'd only be different. Like I said, going back, if it was really and truly going to take a lot more time and effort and energy. Like whatever it was that they wanted us to do was actually going to detract from other things to a certain extent, you know, because you can't lose sight of the fact, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, you can't lose sight of the fact that you're still Muslim. Despite doing certain things, you still want to be involved in khayr fi sabilillah, not for the sake of a payment.
Yeah.
And what does that do to your intentions? Because what the main thing for me was like, fair enough, they want to pay me, fair enough, I have a right to accept and do it for them, right? But then where does that put my intentions? Because I can't sincerely say to somebody, this is why, like, I remember in the past I was offered to be a presenter for a particular Muslim TV channel. This was back in like 2014 or that time. You know, it's a popular channel now, but like I was approached for it. But I remember thinking, actually, at the time, like, I don't feel sincere to talk to, like, to tell people to do certain things when I'm just getting paid, right? There's the sincerity element, kind of, it gets really murky in my heart. So if I had accepted that offer and I started saying, oh, everybody needs to donate, it's really important you donate, I'm like, oh, am I doing that because I want them to see how effective our promotion was? Or am I doing that because I believe in the cause?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And you can tell.
But can't you do that stuff just because you're being paid?
No, because
like
the reason why I say that.
Yeah, you'd get whatever you intended.
But at the same time, it's like, unless you know, I think for me, I'd have to strike a balance where I equally believe in the cause as much as I'm okay with being paid, or I believe in the cause more.
Yes,
but it just it murks my waters a bit because I wasn't told about the cause and then said I was going to get paid. I was told I was going to get paid. I didn't know what the cause was yet, did I? Then you learn about the cause. Okay, I'm going to get paid, so I better feel strongly about this cause.
Get my game face on.
Get my game face on. So this is one of those things where I try and keep it away. But with other areas and with other aspects, like we spoke about Qur'an and those kind of things, those are things where it's like, yeah,
we must have mentioned it like 30 times.
But it's a good example, bro, because it's like,
yeah, we believe in
charity.
It.
We believe in it, but also it's a business, and you can. Yes, it's the Quran, but at the same time, it's offering you a service.
It's a technology business.
It's a technology business.
But
I think that's the distinction.
Business, it's a technology business,
bro. But even so, like we'll talk about the last week. I know this is kind of an extension of last week's episode, but we were talking about how the Mus'haf is compiled in Medina, right? And how actually there's money behind that, and there's people behind that, and there's, you know, once again, people need to be paid. People can't work in these organizations doing this stuff for free 24/7. Someone has to fund that. If they're not funding, they're going to either fund them to do it, or they're going to. I always used to think that maybe there's these big sort of contributors, like big rich people, Muslims, that are like specifically just funding the staff, so that the staff can go out and do whatever. And maybe there are. You never know. Staff? Maybe in charities, in particular charities.
I mean, that is how it works in a lot of countries.
When I was a bit, I don't know, newer to practicing and newer to it, I thought that's how it worked. I thought, okay, all these people, all these workers and staff, they take my money, they're obviously distributing it, but then they're all getting paid and funded by one or two really rich individuals that are funding the whole organization or running the whole organization through a separate thing. I suppose if it does exist, then that works well, because it draws a distinction between the two.
Well, if you think of Islam QA, okay.
So it kind of reminded me of when Wikipedia started struggling, and there was like this, in the rest of the world, there was this big sort of talk about Wikipedia and how it's been going on for so long. Everybody uses it, but nobody wants to donate. And then Wikipedia just suddenly started. Before you click on an article or whatever, there's like a big banner or a pop-up saying, please donate and stuff. So that's what it kind of reminded me of, because I went on there and I was like, oh, I've never seen this before. Because I always was curious how it was run. Yes. And now I'm like, oh, they're asking for donations. But at the same time, I mean, you've got to be silly not to think about donating if you use it all the time, like I have. I remember Islam Q&A, subhanAllah, like, even when I was like really young, maybe like 11 or 12, before I was practicing whatever, I remember my mum coming to me and saying something to, words to the effect of like, I might not be able to answer all of your questions or whatever, and, growing up now and all this stuff. But if there's anything you want to know, this is a good website to go on. And this was like early days, bro. This is before like social media and all of that. And I'm sure it's been there even way before that, probably the dawn of the internet.
Well, it says 25 years.
It says 1990. I'm just looking now, 1997 to 2021.
Man, now I'm thinking I might have to edit this episode. I'm not sure what I should have shared and not shared. But yeah, bro, look at it, man. 25 years, 16 languages, 10,000 answers per year.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. And,
they've got like a whole other side of things. They've got a TV channel. They've got an institute. They've got like 20 different apps. And you just don't really know that like it's linked to them. But yeah, really good, man.
That's brilliant. And it goes back to what I was saying. Like if you're using something every day, you're benefiting from something every day, and then they suddenly require assistance, makes sense. Put your money where your mouth is, because people say it, don't they? You pay for all sorts of stuff all the time, and then when it comes to something that you use all the time, they suddenly start charging. People get the hump, and they're like, "Oh, that doesn't make no sense. Why should I pay?"
I think we should think about it from a point of view of how much value are you getting from this versus is this something that I expect to have to pay for? Like I don't expect to have to pay for Islam QA, but if I've got like whatever £50 of value out of it, I should give, at least give half of that. I got £50 of value, I'll give £25, or whatever it is, if you can.
They've definitely had like a revamp and stuff.
Yes.
I didn't even know that. I've never sent a question in, but like now I've just clicked it out of curiosity, and like you can create an account. So I assume if you create an account, then you can track your question. Because my concern was like, if I sent a question in, I'd never know if it was ever answered. I'd have to like find it, But no, that's interesting. I wonder what like the time limit is for stuff like that. These answers are supervised by Sheikh Mohammed Saleh Al Munajid. So he goes through every single one. I mean, he's supervised at least, but
no, he doesn't go through every single one.
But yeah, but if he had to,
he's got a team, I think, of
right.
students or whatever that are on his vibe.
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
This is what happens. Like, imagine you're that guy you've bought a house. Okay, you own a house, you've got your income, whatever. And now you're thinking of getting a second house. What if that second house, you said, look, this is waqf lillah. Right? Or your third house. Or, there are people out there who literally they're thinking, let me get a third house. Let me get a fourth house. But what if, one of those houses that you're going to get for yourself, what if that was like waqf lillah? And like whatever rent came from that, that's going into whatever. And that's how a lot of people do it. I think especially in Saudi Arabia for sure. It's like, and I think Kuwait and stuff like that. It's like people own an entire building and all of that is waqf.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, that's, that is, and that makes it, sustainable. Because you don't have to keep asking people. And that's what happens is when what happened with that one guy giving that building to Allah, basically, right, is he made the one decision, one good intention, one big push, and he did it. And he did it out of the sincerity of his own heart. No one was pushing him to do it. But then there's that versus like hundreds of people that get pushed to give. And some of them sincere, some of them not so sincere. Some of them, give because the guy's crying and something, what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just feel like if it's more like purely voluntary, like there's no pressure, then there'll be a higher quality of intention with it, wouldn't there?
Yeah.
But yeah, the world has got more expensive over the years, of course, and all of this. But it's a reason to try and make money, man. That's why I kind of like seeing these waqf things pop up. Last Ramadan, what was it? National Waqf something, and there were 2 or 3 of them. And I feel like that's kind of the way forward. Like, you shouldn't have to keep going asking for donations. Ask for the donation, invest that money, and then the profit from that investment keeps going into charity. Like, that's a long-term thing.
Yeah. I suppose, we're moving out of the negative stereotypes and we're thinking broader now. I know I've certainly grown in terms of my thinking of how money should be spent in this sort of stuff. I know definitely when I was younger, in the deen, I was like, 100% donation policy or nothing, and You know, as I've grown and matured and understood and engaged with people, I'm like, oh, actually, that was really immature. That was a really immature thought process. Of course, that doesn't work. And maybe, you know, once again, there's people that are young and newly practicing all the time, you know, and people are on their journey. So I think typically the noise that you hear online, you can never really ascertain how mature that voice is and where that opinion's coming from, you know. And I forget sometimes that the noise that we see in the Muslim community is, at least online, is very broad, and all we see is usernames and profile pictures. We never know for sure how mature that person is, how old they are, what experience they've got. And right now, obviously, a lot of the people I follow, I assume, and a lot of people that I engage with are around about my age or a bit older. So I'm like, oh, maybe the Muslim community is improving because everybody that's in my sphere has grown and a bit more mature. But then again, I'm not involved in the 14-year-old Muslim community, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, 18-year-old. Bro, I can't believe we're turning into those people. Well, no, when we were younger, Akhi, bro, you know, your parents are always like, oh, what's that? I don't know, TV or that's
PlayStation,
whatever. And now we got our own thing. Like we got TikTok to flip in. Oh man, it's problematic. But you know what? Not to go on a huge segue, but if that's that now, bro, like what's going to be in like 20 years, bro? You know, when my kids are old, and what's it going to be then?
We just got to get an EMP, bro. Sort it all out.
Oh man,
you know how I expected you to know what an EMP is, because I know you play video games.
Of course, bro. That's the only reason I know what EMP is. Oh man. Subhanallah.
My Maghrib is in like 10 minutes.
I was going to say, let's wrap things up, inshallah.
Yeah, and hopefully I don't have to cut bits out because that's long.
No, I think we're okay. No, we're okay, you know.
No, I mean, we spoke because I don't know if what they told me is like private or not.
If you don't know, then ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Al Kamir were going to hit us up after we spoke about them. I'm forgetting how much reach we have lately. Alhamdulillah. Listen, guys, listeners, viewers, and we've got viewers now, haven't we? If you want to get involved in the Mind Heist podcast, send us an email at mindheistpodcast@gmail.com.
Mind Heist Challenge. Mind Heist Challenge.
Don't forget the Mind Heist Challenge. Talk to us about how you've challenged yourself in giving more. If you want to remain anonymous, then we've got the Curious Cat, which you can find a link to it in the mindheistpodcast.com. So it's all there. If you have a really interesting story, if you feel like there's somebody that you want to sort of get on the show, we don't have guests too often because I don't know, the dynamic's good. We don't really need guests all the time. Yeah. But sometimes, you know, it's nice to have a bit of a difference.
Definitely.
If you yourself have a really interesting story or something, or you want to talk to us about something, it would be nice to have like a full-on Mind Heist debate / argument one day with someone who completely disagrees with us. That doesn't result in like shouting and bickering.
Haram!
Let's see the ugly side of the Mind Heist hosts.
The North African comes out of us.
Oh, interesting. Quick question. Do you consider yourself Arab, or do you consider yourself North African? What do you consider yourself?
I saw that article you posted.
Oh, I've been thinking about it since I posted it.
I read it. No, both.
Both, yeah. I initially, after reading that, I was like, no, that's it. I told my wife I'm North African now. I can't be begging it to be Arab all the time. And then I did a survey for work, and then it came up with like other or Arab, and I was like, you know what? Arab it is. Because you can never be sure. Can't, unless I'm going to go down my lineage and see where, you know, if my ancestors were, you know, native Africans or they were Arab immigrants. Allah knows best.
But I don't consider myself Arab because of my lineage. I consider myself Arab because I'm from an Arab culture. You know what I mean?
It's whether this is it. It's whether it's the culture, or is it the race, or is it the lineage?
Oh, if you're asking about race, then I'm definitely like mixed of many things. So,
like Allah knows best.
Could have Berber, Turkish, Arab.
This is it.
Spanish.
I wish I knew. Yeah. But at the same time, I wish I didn't know, because I'd be really nationalistic and egotistical, and actually ignorance is bliss. I'm a human being, bro. I'm a Muslim human being.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, Jazakumullah khair for listening. This has been an Akhi Tweet outro.
Yes. I
One
like
of a
it.
few.
I like it.
Um,
Okay. See you next time, inshallah.
Yallah.
Episode 113. Lucky one. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Excellent.